Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about Social Repose's video on CrankThatFrank, who used to be his old friend. Now I've got my face backed away from the camera because last time I made a video, my face was too up close and personal and it looked like it was zoomed in. So anyways, let's get down with this video. Alright, so this is the video I have to show you that Social Repose made on CrankThatFrank. It's called My Problem with CrankThatFrank. So, I'm starting this video out to 5 minutes and 41 seconds, and plus I have the playback speed onto 1.5 times because I don't want to get this video copyright striked, and I don't want any of that trouble. So anyways, this video is in fair use, and let's get on with this video in 3, 2, 1. Or actually, before I do that, I just want to tell you this. This is when Social Repose is talking about how CrankThatFrank had a certain obsession with talking about Dan and Phil, just making jokes about them and just talking about them in general.
I realized I was fan trash when I did that, and it was like hours later I would wipe the sweat off of myself and take a break and just be like, I just read hours of stuff about Dan and Phil, and fan is real, and I would just, yeah.
That was a big deal. That was like the center of his whole thing. His brand, that's a lot of what he talked about, a lot of his little inside jokes with his fans and his puns and stuff like that, all centered around fan.
This is my house. You ship fan or you get out right now.
And do you ship fan and all of that. He did that for a while, but then I remember all of the sudden, Dan and Phil just kind of vanished from his channel. He kind of scrubbed their name, what felt like overnight, but it could have been a slower phase, but it felt like overnight. And that seemed kind of weird. So I remember asking him a long time ago, well, whatever happened to that? I remember it was like, hey, well, what happened to Dan and Phil? What's the deal with that? You were such a big fan. And he pretty much replied saying, well, I met them, so making videos about them after that would seem kind of weird.
And yeah, I think it was a good idea for him to stop talking about Dan and Phil. I think it is a good thing to let go of your obsessions, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to have obsessions and to let them go too, because they're just natural phases that come along in some parts of your life. I mean, did you ever have a phase whenever you were growing up? Just tell me. I mean, I used to be involved in a bunch of not fandoms, but I used to be a big fanboy of a lot of channels, but now I broke away from that and I'm not really fanboying any channels on YouTube anymore.
And I want to believe that, but in my head, that's a YouTuber translation for Dan and Phil's relevance has been waning, therefore my relevance is waning, therefore I need to find something else to latch onto in order to survive, which was kind of...
And this point here was just, it was not well thought through by Social Repose. He just says, oh, because Dan and Phil's career is not doing so well, just because their relevance is not at the peak, therefore I should stop making jokes. In my opinion, I think this was all a phase that CrankThatFrank went through. I think this was just a normal obsession that he had with just talking about Dan and Phil in general, just making jokes and puns about them. I mean, I don't know where or how Social Repose gets this idea from, but I mean, it's Social Repose. He's been like this for the last 11 months.
Weird because he was so like obsessed with Dan and Phil, and not in like a super creepy way. He was just a big fan. Just to have it kind of wiped clean overnight was a little, I don't know, it led me to this, where I mean, I guess he went through a leafy phase.
How to be emo in 2016 because you are nailing it, probably unintentionally. So congrats, No Fox. You are now the master of all emos, and emo kids still exist in 2016.
Then it all came full circle, and he came to the whole emo phase, which he's in now, where he essentially worships Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and right now 21 Pilots, since they released a new record. And all his content is just centered around being hopelessly into these bands. All the puns, all the jokes are centered around being a mega fan.
I saw this meme on Twitter. I think it said like the click during Thanksgiving, and it was like, I can't believe how much I ate and never see any of you again.
Now, as much as I somewhat don't like what the content he posts, his content may seem fine for a lot of viewers, but I mean, I don't personally like it, but I support any content that's uploaded onto anyone's channel as long as it follows the guidelines. But this is an actual criticism that Social Repose made in his video, that he talks about 21 Pilots, that he makes jokes about bands similar to that. I mean, it's the same, kind of the same obsession that he had with Dan and Phil, but I mean, how is this even a point with criticizing CrankThatFrank with obsessions? I mean, they come and go. That's just part of life sometimes. You just have weird obsessions with some people, or you just fanboy some YouTubers and you just like them. If you like them in a way, then you might latch to them for some time, and then whenever you grow older and understand, you just have to let go.
And like I said before, not a problem to be a mega fan, but it just seems a little fishy that he only latches onto artists with massive rabid followings, gets to know that artist really well, and then once that artist becomes dipping in popularity or relevance, maybe they go away or whatever, then he kind of moves on to somebody else and becomes an ultra fan of them. Not good.
Now, first of all, how does he know that CrankThatFrank left Dan and Phil, or stopped talking about Dan and Phil because of relevancy? How does he know that, is what I want to know. Because he's the one that brought up that point up.
Wrong here, but from my perspective, as an outsider looking in, it seems a little disingenuous, seems a little fake. And yes, you could say I do the exact same thing to an extent. I generally only cover popular artists with my acapellas, and you know, I guess that's an argument. But Frank takes it to another level. He kind of puts on the facade of super fan, of stan Twitter, and just goes all in with everything that he says and everything that he tweets. And I don't know, it just feels a little hollow to an outsider who's not quite converted to that fandom yet. Now, another thing I wanted to go over. This isn't as bad, but I saw it pop up, and I can't just not talk about it. CrankThatFrank and his girlfriend Eva are on tour.
A family-friendly alternative tour!
I think they're on tour right now, but they're doing a brief tour. And while this isn't uncommon for YouTubers to do tours, I mean, it's practically commonplace. If you get popular, get at least 500,000 subs, you go on tour, you make that money. There's no problem with that. But whenever a YouTuber that isn't a performer, like a traditional performer, like someone who does music or acts or does something along those lines where you need a stage to perform in front of an audience, which Frank and Eva don't necessarily do. They're more traditional YouTubers. What in the heck do they do on tour? So of course I dove in to find out, and this is what I saw.
Okay, that does seem a bit cringy and weird, but honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I still consider this as a tour. I mean, yeah, they're not his own songs and he's singing other people's songs, but I mean, this is still considered as a tour if he's getting to meet fans, if he's getting to sing other people's songs on stage, if he's getting to jump around or move around like that. I mean, I still consider this as a tour if he has everything, has people paying for, has his own fans paying to go to his shows. I still consider this as a show, regardless if it's not really that well, if he doesn't perform that well or not.
So essentially, the tour is emo karaoke. They do a bunch of that. They sing along to a bunch of alternative songs from various bands, and it's a big sing along. And you know, it could be fun. And they do skits that they just talk about YouTube and Twitter and stuff. And I know nobody's holding a gun to their audience's head to pay to get in, but you gotta be a little curious as to why people would pay money for this live. I feel like the culture of YouTube touring it's a little degrading to the art form in itself. I've said this before about my touring, and in general, people are generally more excited.
Now he goes on to talk about a little bit here, but I'm just gonna skip it a little and go on to the ticket prices.
Pretty reasonable. Then there's a VIP experience. It's $30. That's normal, no problem. But
here we go.
If you go to the site and you look at the prices, oh boy, a regular ticket is $30. That's normal, no problem. But a separate meet and greet, $10 more. Also pretty reasonable. Then there's a VIP experience, which is $76, and the crazy one, the all access experience admission, $200. Do you get a collab series with Frank? What do you get for $200? And the answer is you essentially get like a poster and a...
Okay, first access entry. Pre-show private meet and greet. Includes selfies, photos, videos, and autographs with CrankThatFrank. Exclusive full-screen live tour merch. Holographic all-access lanyard. VIP poster. Bonus post-show meet and greet. Honestly, I don't see the problem with this price. It's not really... I mean, yeah, maybe it would seem like some sort of meetup, but this is not just an ordinary VIP meetup. This is what it's like what it says. All access experience plus admission. I think this is a reasonable price for everything that they have to offer, for the biggest amenity, or is that how you would call it? I don't know, but the biggest admission that you would pay for.
Longer meet and greet. It's pretty awful. All this screams to me is that this whole production is a very low effort money grab. Like, how does it feel to be a YouTube channel that commonly satirizes and kind of parodies bigger channels like the Paul brothers with how they do their merch?
Before we begin, did you really think I could buy without a promo? Have you guys noticed what's on my body?
Besides tears.
Look at this new merch!
But in the same breath, you're pulling shit like this. It just feels a little dirty, a little slimy. And the doors are at 9:45 a.m. Okay, at least like I'm not going. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you here before we embark on the final...
Okay, so he goes on to talk about, his content, saying how it's not all too bad, but then we get here.
I'm not gonna pretend like Frank and I were best buds. We would see each other maybe once every 6 months at conventions. He lived on the same side of the country as I did. We would collab every so often. It was pretty casual. It was very friendly. We had a fair amount in common. So when it came out that I had cheated on my girlfriend a year ago, and it became a very big public ordeal, he had this to say to his fans on his live stream.
Actually,
Now, if you don't know what's going on between Social Repose and Jacqueline Glenn, well, if you don't know their relationship, they used to have a relationship until about 11 months ago or a year ago. Social Repose cheated on her with another woman, and Jacqueline Glenn, I think, has been depressed for the past year or so because of what Social Repose did, and well, this is CrankThatFrank's response to all that drama that was occurring.
101 says, how do you feel about the Richie situation? Let's talk about that. Absolutely disgusting. Horrible. I cannot believe he did that to Jacqueline. I am in any capacity, I am no longer associated with Richie, Social Repose. I'm so disappointed in him. And it's making me very angry talking about this.
And of course he was met with universal praise from his audience, from my ex-girlfriend, from everyone that was watching, but I wonder if they would feel the same if they knew how he treated his girlfriend Ella. Frank hasn't always been faithful with his girlfriend over his lengthy relationship with her. Frank has dangled financial obligations over her head when he knew damn well that she couldn't support herself on her own. Eva even explained at the last Playlist Live, when we were all still on speaking terms, how she was afraid to leave Frank because she was terrified that he would turn his audience against her and she would have nothing left, and she felt incredibly trapped. This was the last contact I ever had with Frank via text. I was on tour at the time, and I thought it was very telling of his personality and of his motives and our friendship that he was so willing to talk shit and to disassociate with me so publicly and so quickly without even talking with me personally, when he's had very similar issues in his relationship with being unfaithful. The only difference in this scenario...
I would be one to talk about being unfaithful. Social Repose, you weren't faithful in your relationship with Jacqueline Glenn. Not at all. You cheated on her and you made her go through depression for the past year or so. Just saying. And that's why you're hated now on the internet. But anyways, I think this should wrap up my video for now. But I will do a part 2 for this commentary. Don't go anywhere, because I will make a commentary, my part 2 on this commentary tomorrow. So anyways, I think this should wrap up the video for now, and I'll see you next time.